Today, we're going to talk about some things that you can do about or prepping. I use that word for a financial storm and what you can do to get your house in order. I mean, there's a lot of layoffs going on right now. People, have a lot of uncertainty about what's around the corner financially, not only in the economy, but for them, their families. And oddly enough, the bills keep coming in, right? And so you've got to do some things to prepare. But I don't know. I mean, at least I'm seeing a lot of it. I don't know, Wendy. What are your thoughts out
Yeah,
there?
I
Rosy
actually just
picture or
no, I just read an article this morning, which was really interesting about because I've seen layoffs. We actually have friends that we work with that have a full time job that they've experienced layoffs. But Tyler Perry just decided to stop building a massive studio that he was building in Hollywood because of AI. Because he says, I don't have to have a studio anymore that's massive. I don't have to have all these scenes because he just saw new technology come out with AI that he's like, I just need to have a little studio and I can have any background, any scenery, anything I want. And I don't think people realize the impact that AI is going to have on the everyday jobs. And that's one of the points Tyler Perry made is he's like, all the people I'm thinking about who are not going to have a job because of this technology. It's massive. So,
yeah.
and that's just one.
No, and you're right. I mean, I've been talking about AI, and it's exciting, it's new, it's scary at the same time because you've got to be as a person, you've got to be extremely adaptable, and continuing to learn how do I leverage this new technology and things like that. If not, if you're just kind of sitting on the sidelines letting life happen, and that's literally millions of people in the United States, it's going to be scary, and it's going to be a situation where you've got to figure out ways. And we've talked about multiple streams of income and stuff in the past, but that financial storm is around the corner. And it's not just that. I mean, we're printing money left and right. Inflation's quote unquote 4%. I'm going to use air quotes on that because I don't believe it. And it's one of the things that you look at the road we're headed on. Now we've got an election year coming up, and I get all that, but who knows how that's going to turn out, right? But there's some things that you can do to kind of tighten things up, and really, these 4 areas are what you need to focus on in the immediate future. I mean, and I'm talking, get on it now, figure out what you need to do, sit down and figure things out. But the first one is really looking at that emergency fund. So many people out there, don't have an emergency fund. They think, oh, I'm just going to be okay. I'm going to use my credit cards or whatever. Well, if you recall, I think we talked about this earlier, or maybe late last week, back in '08 when things got bad, the credit card companies reduced everybody's credit limits, right? Yeah. And you may have had $10,000 credit line or a $5,000 credit line, and all of a sudden you may have only owed $1,000, $2,000 on it or whatever. All of a sudden the credit card company came back and said, okay, your new limit is what you owe.
Yeah.
So you've got no room. So that is that magical, credit card emergency fund was gone overnight, and
disappears.
You got to look at what's that?
Said it disappears. Yeah, overnight.
Yeah, and so not only that, it impacts your credit negatively because now you're using most of your credit, so you can't go out and get another credit card and things like that. So it's kind of a domino. But having that emergency fund set up, and it's start with $1,000, right? Find a way to pick up on some extra jobs, some things like that, or there's a ton of side hustles out there. There's so many ways to make money out there right now in this digital economy we're in. It's crazy. Find a way, and you look at okay, I want to get to $1,000, right? That's going to cover 50% of the emergencies that pop up in most people's lives, other than like a job loss or something like that. And that's really where you want to start. Okay, once I hit the $1,000, I want to get to 3 to maybe 6 months of expenses. That gives you some breathing room if there is a layoff or something like that. If you have 6 months of your expenses laid up, emergency fund only, not vacation fund, right? That's going to protect you in the event that you do have a job loss where you're not in panic mode. It gives you time to find a job that you actually enjoy, not just something to get a paycheck, right? So that's number 1 is that emergency fund. Number 2 is, and we talk about this all the time, get out of debt. Out of debt. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about big debt like your house, right? But I am talking about looking at credit cards, looking at personal loans, looking at, if you've got an auto loan or something like that. And that stuff's expensive anymore, right? But we just had a conversation with a client earlier this week talking about, getting their financial house in order. That was one of the big stressors that they had.
Yeah. The debt piece is huge. I'm seeing so many people, like you said, like we talked about with the credit cards, right? They use the credit cards as that's going to be my emergency fund. Then they have a job loss. Then they max out the credit cards. Then they don't have any room, and it's just, and it becomes this cycle. And then they're stressed out because of debt. And then that even makes them feel paralyzed for moving forward with creating the income. It's just like this vicious cycle that people get into.